Hi, I'm Dee Britt. I'm a retired physical therapist. I'm an indie author, and currently I am really working hard. I'm creating a online course for burnout and those people who want to improve their resilience. And you are listening to Unfreaking Believable.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Unfreaking Believable. We invite you to pull up a chair, relax, and join in for the next 40 minutes or so as we bring you guests who will share with you the moments that made a difference in their lives. And it's all because of that one inciting incident. We believe that life is infinitely stranger than fiction, stranger than anything the mind could invent. You might even say it's unfreaking believable.
Welcome to the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Jen.
I'm Jenny.
I'm Betsy. How's everybody doing today?
Absolutely great. Thank you for asking.
Doing fabulous.
It's a beautiful day here in Arkansas. It got up to 60 today. I'm so excited. It doesn't feel like winter. It will tonight, but today has been lovely. How about you guys?
It feels like winter up here in New Hampshire because we're down to about 20 degrees right now, but it's incredibly windy, so that really bites through you.
Yeah, no
Well,
bueno.
I did a 6-mile bike ride in 65-degree weather today, so it's like the perfect Florida. This is the time in Florida where I like it the best, when it's in the 60s during the day and then gets nice and chilly at night.
It's also very flat there, right?
Yes, comparatively speaking.
6-mile ride here in the mountains, no, not going to happen. I sold my bike. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done.
No, not with your knees. That would be
No,
dumb.
All right, Jen, you have a word of the day for us?
I do, and one appropriate for our little weather discussion, I might add. Our word for today is apricity.
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 I almost want that to be appreciaty.
Yes.
Because
Well,
I appreciate the word.
I appreciate you. Apricity, see what you did to me?
I'm
Apricity is the warmth of the sun in winter.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Perfect.
So, yeah, even though it doesn't get too terribly, terribly cold here, I do have a memory of being outside in the winter and feeling the warmth of the sun on my face, and that is apricity.
Love it.
Nice. Great word. All right, Jenny, fun facts?
Yeah, just those fun facts.
Yes, I got a quick fun fact and a little bit longer fun fact today. So the first one is the number 1 billion, okay? 1 billion is much larger than you think.
Okay.
To put it into perspective, 1 million seconds is only 11 days, where 1 billion seconds is actually 31 years.
That's a big jump.
What?
Yeah,
that is a big, big jump.
Huge.
Yeah. It's so hard to wrap your brain around numbers that big. It's just
Yep.
unbelievable. Okay,
All right.
next fact.
Yes, all right. And this one, in order to keep Genghis Khan's burial site secret, all 2,000 people that attended his funeral were executed. And then the executioners were then killed by members of Genghis Khan's escort, who eventually took their own lives. And to this day, nobody knows where Genghis Khan was buried, and it's been about 800 years.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about keeping things secret.
That's
I've heard about that happening in Egypt too, where they would kill anyone that worked on a tomb so that its location would remain
If they knew
secret.
where the hidden chambers were, they were more likely to be buried with their king.
It certainly made an argument to not be an architect.
Yeah, or a stonemason.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder, like, is this really a career path I want to follow?
And out of the 2,000 people that attended, how many of those were his families? Because we were talking earlier before we started the podcast, and that he's had hundreds of children.
Yeah, wives and concubines and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living in those times and having things like that happen. It's just insane.
Me either.
All right, well, is everybody ready to get started?
Let's rock.
Okay. So this episode, our guest is Dee Britt, and Dee is a retired physical therapist who is transitioning to teaching. She has an online course called Healthcare Burnout, Planning Your Encore, Rocking Chair to Rockstar. And then one mindset, health, authenticity, and exploration. She was led down this path after experiencing severe burnout and developing a strong desire to help others in the same situation. She's preparing for the release of her second book in the Fireside series that's published with Quillhawk Publishing. The book is called Fireside: The West Lion Story. It's set in an Atlanta, Georgia assisted living center. I have some very good questions about that one. And there are some wonderful and wacky characters that come to life in this nursing home or assisted living center. Along that path, she's also a book narrator, a musician, and she's fronted for multiple bands, enjoys songwriting, singing, and playing rhythm guitar. And she's also a dog fanatic and has a wonderful family. So, Dee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. How's things in Oklahoma? How's it going there today?
Well, like you, we've been blasted by the Arctic blast, and gosh, I took the dog for a walk today, and it was nice out, probably 50s. It's good in Oklahoma. It is.
Nice. Well, there is a lot to unpack in your introduction. So let's talk a little bit about your career as a physical therapist. Can you take us through that and how that led to you becoming a writer?
Oh, well, sure. With physical therapy, I had been an athlete for years, growing up in small town USA, played basketball, ran track, and that was ultimately, after several injuries, that's ultimately what led to me, getting into physical therapy. And with the physical therapy, it has been a life passion of mine forever to help people get more functional. Take somebody who, if they're a hard worker, there's really no limit as to how they can better themselves physically. And so being an athlete, I just tapped right into that. And whether somebody was a 90-year-old person who was having trouble getting out of their recliner, or perhaps they were an athlete who tore up an ankle, they're trying to get back into the game. So that's how all of that transpired. And honestly, as time continued and, the healthcare system seems to be broken. We don't need to go into that into any great detail, but, especially the COVID pandemic kind of amplified all of the bugs and all of the dark corners of our healthcare system, with as far as communication and having enough supply, keeping yourself safe while yet providing hands-on care to somebody who needs it. And so, and being a physical therapist, you don't really feel, or you wouldn't expect to really feel as if you're on the front lines, but when you are I did home health during that time. And so when you realize that you're really somebody's lifeline to stay at home, and without improvement, they may have to go to a facility, and they're not all bad, I'll be the first to say, but people put their lives in your hands. And to make sure that I didn't bring COVID or some other illness to them, I mean, you're bagged up, masks, shoe covers, all the isolation stuff. So that, along with losing you shouldn't have favorites, but some of these people I'd seen off and on for 10 years. So you make friends with these people, and then, they trust you, and it's kind of hard to lost several of them that had become my friends. So, and then at the same time, documentation changed nationwide as far as, especially with Medicare, they always have new regulations. And so what used to be, nobody likes paperwork. I'll be the first to say, on a good day, I don't like paperwork. But when it gets to the point where the time you spend to adequately document your services, when that takes longer than it did to provide that service, it's upside down. And so anyway, I will just say those are two of the triggers that really pushed me over to the point where I said, I decided it's time for me to really retire anyway. I'm going to spend my time helping people handle it, give to people some insight. A lot of people grew up like I did, and, your answer to achieving was really work harder. Well, there's some instances where work harder does not do anything but damage. And so anyway, that was the backstory to all of that. And I will say that I have had multiple experiences along my life's journey that kept me on the path, kept me focused, and kept me moving forward. So, and that's what I'm hoping to talk to you guys about here in a minute.
Well, I can certainly understand the paperwork problem. I had that same problem as a teacher. I think
Oh, yes.
anytime you're dealing with government entities as a whole, and I'm not even talking about grading, but when you're dealing with Medicare as a government entity, teaching as a government entity, the amount of CYA paperwork is astonishing, just astonishing. So
Yes.
I can imagine how that, in combination with the emotional stress of, you know, dealing with people who are literally, especially during the pandemic, putting their lives in your hands in some ways, that could be very overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, the top 5, loosely in research, you'll find some studies that show differently, but the top 5 people at risk are teachers, first responders, counselors, and we'll put nurses and those kind of people kind of in a little place to themselves. And I think there was one other. Anyway, so really, and I have not proven this, but I do believe there is a bit, coming from the teacher standpoint as well. If you're really a right-brained person, if you are forced to be, to use them equally, your right and left brains, that competes for your energy. So I think teachers have had to.
Boy, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm actually fairly balanced by nature, but that, at least I'm sure this is true nationwide, but teaching has become much and much less of a creative career than it was when I started. It's a lot more about satisfying government mandates now and boosting test scores than it is about being creative. You barely have time for the creative part, which is truly, truly sad.
And that's where people soar.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So, speaking of teaching, you are now in a new role as a coach and a teacher. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. My online courses I'm putting out, it really gives people an easy way to connect with information in a safe environment and surrounded by people who are going through the same thing. Just the 4 pillars and they're, others may say similar. The words that I use are mindset, doing things like mindfulness, taking care of yourself, learning how to say no, those kind of things. Mindset, health, know what to eat, good exercise, what a healthy body really is. And the next 2, I was surprised the first 2 I already knew, but as I kept studying and finding out more about myself, authenticity is huge in burnout or in lack of resilience, because you lay your own values, your own purpose, and if the organization or the group you're in constantly requires you to go against what you believe in, that's big. It's really big. It's like you're sabotaging yourself. And then the last one, which I've had so much fun doing myself while I've been working through this stuff, is just exploration. And exploration is, like, go back to where you were a kid. What did you enjoy when you were a kid? Chances are that's still something that has a really sweet spot in your heart. And, or like, I'll give one wild example. My sister in Houston, she had a really very busy early adulthood. And when she was able to kind of break free and do some things she wanted to do, she went skydiving in one of those little tubes. She's a world traveler, things that she thought she might enjoy. You just go for it. Try to do something outside the box. And so these courses are offered on the internet. I've got a website. It's just really easy, deebritt.com, DeeBritt.com. And you can learn about all the stuff I'm into on my website.
Okay, so that all sounds really interesting, and I imagine a lot of our listeners can relate to feelings of burnout in their jobs in any of a number of different industries. The ones that you listed obviously being very prominent, but I imagine that anybody who puts a lot of pressure on themselves to do really well in a job is in danger of that, especially if they have other people relying on them. So I suspect a lot of people could really benefit from checking your website out. Betsy mentioned in the intro that you're also a musician. Tell us more about that.
Okay. That kind of goes back to a little bit of what I mentioned earlier. You kind of go back to what feels good or is enjoyable. Something that I know to be true is that creativity, even at work, if it's more of a logistical type situation, if you can free your mind and do something you enjoy that's creative, then that will help all the way around. And I'm not a trained musician whatsoever. I just got a guitar, got some friends together. I never thought that I could sing because I played basketball all through high school and college, but grabbed that guitar and I've got a decent voice. I'm definitely not trained, but I can get through in a pinch. And so a lot of for probably about 20 years, 15, 20 years, I fronted a church band, and then that kind of went into, bands just across Oklahoma City, playing mostly rock and blues and writing originals. But I can any kind of creative thing, I really enjoy it. I'm not good at everything, but I love singing, playing guitar, and writing. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I think my standing line is, just because I can't sing doesn't mean I won't.
Yeah,
I like to sing too, so it's so cathartic, whether you're good at it or not. Just to join in, find a song you love and just let it all out. Singing in groups with people, so cathartic. It's a good thing.
I'll sing at a concert and stuff, or when I'm at home or in my car by myself. That's where I sound the best. But public singing, like, I think we've all seen American Idol, and there are just those clueless people that get up there and, they just don't know they're horrible.
Yes.
I know I'm terrible.
I can't watch those shows. It's like watching a comedy of errors, which is like a real thing for me. Like I literally can't sit still because I'm so embarrassed for them. Yeah,
Secondhand embarrassment.
yeah, exactly. And actually, anybody who knows me knows that if hell is personalized to each person, hell for me is a karaoke bar.
Oh, wow.
I promise.
What I think is really cool is in the pubs
That's
in
awesome.
Scotland, they will have open singing. And it's not just to go hear the band, it's to sing with them and to bring the community together and share those songs and make sure the old songs don't die. So that's,
See, that's cool. That's something cool. Group sing along and stuff where I can very quietly sing along,
not be the center of attention.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Dee, tell us a little bit about your fireside books. They're set in the assisted living center in Atlanta. And I don't know if you know this, but Jen and I both are coping now with parents who are in assisted living centers. So we kind of have a frame of reference on that. Tell us a little bit more.
My initial writing came straight out of my experience. It's fiction. It's not biographical or article, but I will say that, and I don't know if you guys that are authors would think the same way, but I figured out that as I was developing characters, I was really surprised at how much of myself, bits and pieces, ended up in different characters. And so even if I'm not doing journaling or something that's thought to be cathartic, writing fiction is cathartic. And I started off just wanting to bring a positive light to these people that I have treated that are, they're just amazing people. people, when I would go in to treat somebody, I would see visitors and they would look right over their heads. I mean, they might be in a wheelchair, have a sweater on, in your 90s, your skin doesn't look like you're 20. And the look on some people's faces was somewhat, well, I wonder what they did, what kind of work they did. I treated a Ziegfeld Follies dancer.
That's awesome.
I've treated a Homeland Security, big dog. I treated, you guys may not be old enough, but I remember Jesse Owens, the black track big guy. I mean, he was just like bigger than life.
Absolutely.
Now, I didn't treat, of course, I didn't treat Jesse Owens, but I did treat a guy who ran against him the year that Jesse went to Germany to do all that thing. So, and I mean, and lots of people you might consider regular people that basically laid down their life because of the era they grew up in, laid down their life not once, but multiple times.
Yes.
For their family, for their country. So anyway, that's one of my soapboxes. I just wanted people to give them the proper recognition. And so each of these books, they're set in an assisted living center, but it takes one character who arrives new to the center, and it has flashbacks into their previous lives and all the amazing things that they have done. So, and just, I try to bring humor in. I tried, and there's some very sad parts too, but it's just kind of like, if you think of like fried green tomatoes with the flashbacks and stuff, and I kind of built my books on characters, so there's some very unique characters and very brave characters in my books.
That's fantastic. Everybody's got a story. You just have to stop and listen.
And
that's kind of why we brought you on the show, is we want to hear your unfreaking believable story. Are you ready to tell it?
Okay, sure.
All right, the microphone is yours.
Okay. Well, this will go back to, what was it, 83, 84. And I was a physical therapy student at OU at the Health Science Center. And I had a really bad knee injury playing basketball at USAO in Chickasha my senior year, the last semester. There was not going to be rehabbing for me to come back. I mean, that was going to be it. And so I had a doctor that put me in several casts, which was the wrong treatment. The next scene in this story is that I go to a class in PT school, and my instructor said, "Grab my knee." And he said, "Everybody gather around here. I'm going to show you how to do a Lockman's test." And that's what you do to test for an ACL tear. And so he grabbed my knee and he started demonstrating it. And he said, no, really, come here, because she doesn't have an ACL. It's gone. And so my knee was just real sloppy. And so with him he got me in to see Dr. Grana, who was a big time doctor at that time. Well, I went in for my first surgery, and it was just real. I had broken the bone, I tore the ligaments, I tore the meniscus. It was the first surgery was just a lot of cleanup, and I had an unstable knee. I kept falling, so it was like, okay, we need to have your ACL reconstructed. So I was very unsettled about it, and that's not typically me. I just knew it had to be done. But that night I was just not, I needed a little bit of reassurance. So I got my Bible and I was reading, and I came across the verse. And this is something that even still to this day, I remember this verse, but I never sat down to memorize it. I can't tell you I know it's a psalm, but I can't tell you what number it is. It's, "I waited patiently on the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my heart, a hymn of praise to our God. many will see and hear and put their trust in the Lord. And after that, I felt a calm just drop over me like a blanket. And I thought, it's going to be okay. It's really going to be okay. And so next day we get into go in for surgery. My whole family's there. And I remember I was nervous. I hate needles. I hate when they put needles, I have a phobia of needles. That was kind of a big deal for me. And then the next thing I know, guys, this is the only way I can put it, was I was looking at myself on the surgery table, and it was as if if I were laying down, it would have been straight up in maybe 11 o'clock on a dial. And I remember thinking, that's me. Well, everything's okay. I'm not hurting. I could pick out the other people in the room. There was a lot of people, and then all of a sudden it was like, people were running everywhere. And I'm watching them do this. They put IVs in both legs and in both arms, and they're squeezing the bags, trying to get dantrolene into me because I had a malignant hyperthermia reaction. It's a genetic thing. We didn't know I had it. In fact, it's mostly seen in athletic young people. If you've ever heard of a young football player that freakishly died on the table, that's one thing that could do it. And so all of my vitals were just crazy. So back to when I'm floating kind of up there, I was not concerned at all. It was not a bad thing. I thought everything's cool, but this is kind of weird. And then the very next thing I knew, there was like a board, that holds your arm out for the IV dealie, the IV needle. And I can remember I'm all stretched out, and they got my legs stretched out, my eyes open, and I see one of those big old lights that they always pull over. It's blinding me, and all I saw was a whole bunch of people. I saw heads, and they're all saying at the same time, "You're okay, you're okay, you're okay." Well, that's when you know you're not okay, is if you didn't ask and everybody's shouting, "You're okay." So then at that point, it was like, I was in a life-threatening situation. I ended up in ICU, and what malignant hyperthermia does is it triggers the calcium in your body so that you have a significant muscle contraction, like a spasm, but it's in every muscle you've got, really. So that causes your temperature to rise without control. And so that's what they were fighting. Dantrolene is the antidote. That's why they were trying to squeeze all of that into my body. So after all of that, I went to ICU, and it's kind of cool. I was in ICU back when Presbyterian Hospital was right across the street from the Health Science Center. Was back in the day. And
yes,
my physical therapy classmates put on their lab not all together, but I would say about 5 of them. At different times, they would put on their lab jacket, and they would come over to the hospital. Well, there's a kind of a running joke, not really a joke, but something that we all say. It's just that if you put on a lab jacket and you act like you're walking with a purpose, people really don't stop you. You can hit the button, you can go through, like you know what you're doing. Well, that's what these classmates were doing. They would come in there, and it was just the ones that I remember, they came and prayed with me. People that I just really didn't know they were big prayers, but I'm telling you, they prayed for me. And I went from that intensive care unit to a single room. I was never left alone. My dad told the charge nurse he wouldn't get in anybody's way, but he would challenge anybody who tries to get him out of that room. So he did stay in that room. and then put me into a regular room. And I've got chills right now thinking about it, because when the first time I was alone, my mom and dad left. They were going to go get something to eat. I'd just gotten to the room, and they said, "We're going to be right back, Dee. You're in good hands." And I said, "Okay." And so I remember what the door looked like at Presbyterian. They were white. At that time, it was white oak, and it had a little roller ball, like not a latch, but a little roller ball that would roll into a recess to hold it shut. I watched that latch close, and the only thing that was through my mind was, I waited patiently on the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He put my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. He put a song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and hear and put their trust in the Lord. And from that minute, I just really knew, His hand was on me. A lot of people have different ideas about who God is, and I'm not here to challenge any of that. It's just I know there's a God, and I know that I was saved for some reason. And I believe that my purpose has always been to encourage people. I like to make people laugh. I like to make people sing and have fun. And I like to let other people who have felt like they don't have a chance or that they're slipping away, I want other people to know that, you've got more on your side than just you. There is a way.
Yeah.
And there's always something better down the road. So, and I have carried that with me every time I've had a hard spot in life. I remember that verse, and I just know that I've got a purpose.
That's awesome. I've had that same knee surgery. How's your knee today?
It's fine. I've had a total on that one too, and
Okay.
But it's doing great. I'm going to have my other one done at some point. So
if it's not one, it's the other,
yeah, it is not for the weary.
No.
No.
Now, Dee, I have been so excited waiting for you to come on to hear your unfreaking believable story, and it is unfreaking believable. I've always been fascinated with outer body experiences, and the point in your story where you were talking about, like the moment just before you went back into your body and you saw the heads around you with everybody saying, "You're going to be okay." What did that transition feel like from observing to being back in your body? Did it feel like it was sudden and jarring, or was it a smooth transition back into yourself?
Well, physically it was smooth, but in my, whatever you want to call it, in my mind, in my consciousness, or in my, when I was up above looking down, the best thing I can equate it to, I've only done this once, but I've been in a hot air balloon once. And there was I was above Broadway Extension, for heaven's sake, and there was not a whisper. Everything was calm and just calm. No sounds, really. And that's what it felt like when I was up above. And then what was so jarring was just the surprise and the such chaos. I went from, honestly, I had not a worry in the world when I was out of my body. I was content. I was happy. And how can you be happy looking at your own body down there? But I was totally content. And then when I kind of woke up and everybody was leaning over me and grabbing and, chaos. And that to me, that's the difference. It goes from bliss to chaos.
When you were out of your body and having the OEB, as I read it a lot with the initials, did you sense other beings or any other presence or energy around you that gave you that sense of calm?
I really didn't. I didn't. I just felt like it kind of felt like it was me looking at the movie going on down there. And it's like, oh, that's really not a movie. That's me, So no, I don't remember another presence.
So I have not personally had an out of body experience, nor has anyone that I'm aware of personally. But my husband had a double lung transplant. And though
Oh,
he did not have an out of body experience or anything like that, as he was getting ready to go into his surgery, a nurse walked into his room that he had never seen before and literally walked into his room and just said, "Everything's going to be okay." And he never saw her again. But the minute she said it, this absolute sense of calm came over him, and he knew, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but if she said it was going to be okay, he knew that that was like a message that it was going to be okay. That, that was, some people call that like a God nod. And it was like that kind of thing for
oh
him.
yeah.
And so
Wow.
he knew that everything was going to be all right at that point, and he just stopped being nervous. He stopped worrying. It just like off like a switch like that. I was probably more worried about it than he was, even from the get-go, as is always the case when it's your loved one that's going into a situation. But
True.
yeah, so I think that when there are times like that of tremendous concern or emotional stress, I do think that, we do have, call them guardian angels, call them
Huh.
loved ones, call it, spirit, whatever you want to call it. I do think that there is a sense of comfort that does get sent to you if you're open to it.
Oh, I believe it 100%. I think we've got angels.
Yep. Angels are everywhere.
Yeah, angels that we never knew we met, that we never knew they saved us one way or another. Yep.
I like how you referred to it, Jen, the God nod.
Yes.
I didn't make that up. I don't get credit for that. That's
I
yeah, that's been
still
out there
love
for
it.
a while, and I do love my rhyming things and my alliteration. So whenever I have a chance to use one, I'm going to go for that. Um but I know that I've had other people tell me similar stories to that. Betsy, you even
Yeah.
had a situation like that you've talked about on the show here when you were delivering
Yeah.
Ian. So
My granddad
yeah.
came to tell me it was going to be okay, and he passed away when I was 13. So
Wow.
yeah, absolutely believe in that.
Me too.
I thought I had had an outer body experience once, but it was just when the propofol was going in, or the propofol, however you
What?
say it. There was a mirror on the ceiling. That's not fair. Why was there a mirror on the ceiling?
Oh,
This isn't some, cheap motel room or something. Why is there a mirror? That's definitely an outer body experience, makes you think that.
Oh,
So I
man.
was robbed of my chance. I feel robbed.
But the drugs were good. It was a good anesthesia
Yes,
for sure.
yeah, it's like that TikTok soundbite going around. The drugs are working and the drugs are good.
Well, Dee, why don't you share with our listeners where they can find you and learn more about your programs? You mentioned your website. Is there any social media or anything like that besides deebritt.com where they can find you?
sure. I'm on Instagram as well as Facebook, mostly those two. If on Instagram, I have two accounts there. The account that is related to burnout is it's a tongue twister. Britt's Burnout Blitz. Britt's Burnout Blitz. And I have another account that's Dee Britt on their Instagram, and then also Facebook Dee Britt there. And you can just, if you ever just want to talk with me or leave an email, my email comes from the website, so it's very redundant and really easy. deebritt@deebritt.com. So
And she's joined our Unfreakingbelievable Facebook group, so you can reach out to her there as well. Dee, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story and explaining what makes you unfreaking believable. I'd also like to thank my lovely co-host, my favorite long-distance relationships in a sisterly sort of way. Listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, please rate and review it on whatever platform you listen on. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Audible.
You can join our Unfreakingbelievable Facebook group, as Betsy just mentioned, and you can also follow us on TikTok, X, and Instagram. You can also join our Patreon for exclusive content, and there's some already up for 2025. We have a free Patreon subscription, but you can also help keep this show running for as little as $1 a month.
You can also visit our website at www.ufbpodcast.com. And if you have an unfreaking believable story, reach out to us at ufbpodcast@gmail.com because we'd like to hear your story too. Betsy, do you want to send us out with your quote of the day?
Today's quote comes from C.S. Lewis, who says, "Miracles are a retelling in small letters of the very same story which is written across the whole world in letters too large for some of us to see."
That is beautiful. And I know my husband really loves reading C.S. Lewis as well, so I'm sure he will particularly like your quote for today.
Excellent.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Unfreaking Believable podcast. And remember, as you go out into the world this week, don't just be awesome.
Be unfreaking believable.
See you all next time.